Redshark's NAB coverage is brought to you by
So, Paul Matthijs, what happened with Hedge?
A lot since you and I met last time, 3 years ago. Back then we were with 5 people, if I recall correctly. Now it's 25, and so much has happened. Hedge has become really mature. We acquired Edit Ready and Scopebox. Post-lab happened, obviously, so we now have collaboration for Final Cut Pro, Premiere, remote locking for Avid users. So much happened, and then we got really big in LTO as well. So we sort of became from that single app company that just worked for camera ingest to a complete workflow company, and it's from A to Z. We have stuff that helps filmmakers spend less time on boring stuff, it seems, and somehow it flew by those 3 years, and I've been saying it to everyone. It's like it feels like this is just NAB after last year's. Everyone is here again. It's great to meet so many people, but the industry has changed so much in 3 years, and it's
In what sense?
in a sort of democratic sense that people realize that silos don't work anymore. You really have to work together. You have to integrate. You have to have open standards. It doesn't work to have a vendor lock-in. Subscriptions for desktop software don't work. It's just people need to be free. They need to be free in their choices. Like when a pandemic happens, everybody suddenly realized that they needed so much different gear. They needed to go streaming. They needed different Macs to do stuff. They needed HyperDecks. And with a global supply crunch, that's of course a problem. So if products are prepared for that change all the time, it's so much better to work together all the time, I think.
So you basically talked about it already, but like, what has been your strategy? Why did you acquire these other companies? And what's the value of like having that all like under one roof?
Well, a big thing in how innovation happens in the film industry is often that someone from the field runs into a problem and then learns a bit of coding, turns that into an app, and if they're lucky they can turn it into a company. And that's what happened with us as well. We were on a DIT job, and then Hedge happened. Not overnight, took us a few years, but it happened. But there's way more companies that do it like that, get stuck at the 1 or 2 person level, that can't really grow or invest in knowledge. And Divergent was one of those companies that have been around for 50 years already, excelling in color science with Edit Ready, with Scopebox, and that was just a domain that we did not know enough about. So we were talking to Mike, and being a 2-man operation in a pandemic, that's hard to maintain. So we thought, well, let's team up, let's bring him in, and let's see if we can bring your technology into all of our apps. So it made a lot of sense to team up with more people that have industry knowledge, that have specific domain knowledge that actually benefits us. So that's how we built remote locking for Avid as well. I think we're the only vendor that currently does that. And it's just, people realized during the pandemic and afterwards that it's not nice to be on an island, sitting in your home office without contact. Then at least have a team around you. And that team really drives innovation, and that shows in products like Scopebox, like PostLab, where it really liberates you working together. It's no longer that you need to work together with that editor that's in your area or in your zip code. If you can work together with every editor in the world, if they do a nice job, if you see a commercial somewhere, you like the editing, you can actually reach out to that person and work with that person the same day now. And that wasn't possible pre-pandemic. And I think that's a great thing for the industry. It's much easier for people to start learning, to getting the ropes of the industry, to learning how to edit, to learn how to shoot, without that massive burden of having to get gear or having to buy expensive gear or getting an education. It's all liberating, and I see that all around on the show floor. Like, it's a very different crowd nowadays.
In what sense?
People are looking for ways to collaborate, to work together, they're way more open-minded in sharing technology, into licensing technology, of course, on a business sense, but also in making stuff work together, like frames, camera to cloud is a great example. It was very enterprisey, hard to implement, needed some serious technical skills. But now with Filmic Pro and Animus in the mix, that's a game changer. Now it becomes available to everyone. And Frame is just the first camera to cloud workflow. That's going to be way more the coming years. And you'll see them all converge. And then one day you're looking back at the industry and just thinking, how could we ever do without it?
It's so interesting. This is probably a really difficult question, but like, is that the one thing that you're really proud of from the last 3 years?
I think on a personal level, it's actually managing a company, getting a company to work with that many people and still churning out that many software updates, getting feedback from people that are just saying, Hedge was already great, it's just getting better and better and better. And that especially shows, I think, in the LTO landscape, so LTO's backups on tape. That used to be a very IT-focused industry. You really needed IT knowledge for that, and we completely dumbed that down with Canister. And now we're adding features, power features to Canister, and we're reaching into a market that is used to that IT level, and they're like, I don't want to do without that app ever again. And we also get a lot of industry recognition for it because we now ship with the 3 major brands of LTO drives for the M&E industry. And that to me is really fulfilling, that we can actually grow that team into that adulthood to make those products available and have a great future ahead of us.
It's interesting because it almost feels like you're decomplicating things by just really thinking well about them.
Oh yeah, we're thinking deep about it. It's our mission. We have some mission statements like our apps are offline first, there may not be vendor lock-in, but the most important thing is not actually the technology in the apps, we think, but it's making it super, super simple. And we actually have a veto on new interface elements. It's not allowed for a product team to work on a feature and then come with a suggestion of like, to make this feature work, we need to add a button. No, can't do. Find a way to do without a button, because if you do, it's a much more natural way to discover the feature, to start using it, because it will be there when you think you'll need it. It's a much more natural way than just adding buttons to software and it complicate matters. So dumbing things down, making it super easy for you to understand when you need to understand it without needing to read a manual, that's what we try to do with every app we have.
Well, thank you, because I, as a filmmaker, want to focus on films, not on the tech stuff.
Yeah, and that's boring. Like, data handling is boring. There's no way around it. It's like, better make it so simple and nice to use that it at least is not in the way. So, for instance, we have a lot of filmmakers that keep telling us they love Hedge, but what they actually love most is that after a day of shooting, they don't need to stick around in a hotel room doing the offloads. They can just go to the bar with the rest of the crew, have a drink, and they'll get a push notification when the offload is done. And that is liberating to people. They can actually get some sleep. That's way more important than doing that backup, we feel.
Thank you. That really inspired me to actually go and offload this and then go
and
to
have
the
a
bar.
drink.
Yeah. Thanks
You
so
deserve
much.
it. It's an afternoon at NAB, and typically at NAB at noon you're knackered. So.
Yeah. Thanks.